Green screen. Okay, here we go. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good,
Good morning,
good
Donnie.
morning.
Good morning.
Like, welcome you to the BlackUSA.News morning show. My name's Donnie Glover, and we're in here getting it started. Samuel Jordan, good morning. Welcome to the show.
And thank you so much, Donnie. Samuel Jordan with the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition.
Clearly, he's got a radio background. Glenn Smith, how you doing there, Minister?
I'm doing well. Minister Glenn Smith. I'm with Vice President, Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition. I'm also a board member with Coppin Heights Community Development Corporation. And I serve as a community representative on the West North Avenue Development Authority.
Well, I'm coming up your way immediately after this broadcast. Do you know what's happening at the Imad Center this morning, Glenn Smith, Minister
I do
Glenn?
not. I do not.
Well, the SBA is going to be there, as well as the president of the U.S. Black Chambers. That's Mr. Ron Busby. They'll be at the Imad Center.
Oh,
and
yeah?
of course, that's at 2132 West North Avenue. If there's anything on North Avenue worth saving, it would be that Imad Center. I'm so proud of Rashid Aziz and the work that he's been doing. You know, Rashid?
65-unit apartment building at the old Walbrook Mill.
No.
And we're going to open up a...
No, do you know Rashid?
Yeah, I do. I do know
So
Rashid.
you went to the Imad Center.
I have. He's
$3
doing
million facility, manufacturing in West Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Absolutely needed.
He does great things with those young people there as well.
Janice McCoy says, good morning. You know Janice?
I do not. Good morning, Janice.
All right. So, gentlemen, tell me about this. Let's start with you, Glenn. You seem to be the one who started all of this momentum between Baltimore Transit and Black USA. And let me just stop. Glenn, where'd you get those fly glasses from?
From the VA, man. The VA is hooking people up, man. Thank you very much. But look, you have that a little wrong. Samuel is actually the one who came to me after the governor canceled the red line, needing signatories on the Title VI complaint against the cancellation of the red line. But since then, we have come together to join to form the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition.
I got to start with you, Glenn, because I knew you first.
Okay,
I first met you.
Understand that, but I got to get it straight. I got to get the story straight.
Well, that's from maybe another perspective, but from my perspective, you and I go back to the year of at least Freddie Gray, when we have a series.
Before that. Quite a bit before that.
Well, I remember Freddie Gray in particular because we had a series of Santown Winchester community meetings, and I remember you would show up. That's what I remember.
When I came back to Baltimore, I kind of started getting into community through Zelda Robinson at Midtown Edmondson. I was concerned that our community associations weren't united, and we needed to be united in order to have any kind of effect. I mean, people hear voices when they come in bunches. So that was my quest, or my mission, was to connect the community associations in West Baltimore particularly.
Now, Glenn, you from Baltimore?
I am born and raised. Samuel tells me I'm a survivor of the highway to nowhere. I was displaced by that horrendous project that destroyed West Baltimore.
That was William Donald Schaefer.
No, that was Larry Hogan, who canceled the project.
I'm talking about the project, the highway to
The highway
nowhere.
to nowhere. Yeah, that was under William D.
And that this is where the fight breaks out.
Okay.
You always blame Hogan, and I always remind you that Martin O'Malley could have left his shovel ready, correct?
It was shovel ready. It was shovel ready when Hogan came to office. All he had to do was sign it.
O'Malley could have made his shovel ready before he left. He could have got the project started before he went on to run for president. Is that correct?
Samuel, you could answer that better.
Yeah, let me add a detail, because Don is more than correct. Here's what happened. We had not only was it shovel ready, fully funded, fully approved, but we had a record of decision in December of 2013. The election was in 2014. Hogan was elected in 2014, was inaugurated in 2015. The question is always, why didn't O'Malley start the project? You know, the thinking was that he was handing it off to Anthony Brown, so he start off with a feather in his cap. No, there's some question as to why Martin O'Malley didn't get the project started, and he let it languish an entire year before Hogan was elected.
Samuel, there's another thing that O'Malley did. He sued as governor. He sued so that he would not be responsible for Baltimore City public schools. Do you recall that?
I want to mention something to you, Donnie, that is true no matter where you live and how long you've lived in the United States. Anything for Black people and children is always too expensive. And no one wants to be blamed for doing either one.
Yeah. And so I gotta tell you this, Glenn, because let me get back to Glenn. Glenn, you just don't like Hogan anyway because you're a Republican, right?
Well, you know, when I look at the work that had been done, 12 years of planning, you know, for him to come in and just wipe the program out without any discussion, without any talk, to call it a boondoggle, when he didn't have the information that showed it was a viable product. You know, Sam said, you know, anytime it's something that's going to benefit the Black community, they try to redline us and keep us from being mobile. You know, this is not something. This is not something. Go ahead.
It's a little more complicated than that. You blame specifically Hogan, and it's like you're not looking at the big picture. Let me give you a classic example why. We wouldn't even be having this discussion about the Imad Center in the 2100 block of West North Avenue or North Avenue Rising if it weren't for actually Ehrlich. Ehrlich put money in the coppin back in 2002. In that term, 02 to 06, he put money in the coppin that had never been put there before. And so that's where the 2500 block of West North Avenue all of a sudden gets a rejuvenation of life like never before. I grew up down the street from there. Coppin always looked like a high school. Okay. So it actually took some Republicans to get the investment going. That's why we're even having a North Avenue discussion.
I'm not blaming Republican or Democrat for the disinvestment that's been in West Baltimore.
I mean, come on in. I don't want to do all the talking, but that's your perspective.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just sort of interject here for a moment.
Baltimore is 9-1 Democrat. I blame Democrats.
Donnie, I just want to make something clear, please. Take a deep breath. Take another one. Every breath you have ever taken, any minute you've ever lived in the United States was governed by white supremacy, no matter what the party was in power. Please, Let's talk about what we need. Forget talking about Republicans and Democrats for a moment. We don't need to do that. We need to talk only about what we need and getting together to get it. One of our slogans for Baltimore is, Baltimore, stand up, take charge, stop trembling. Stop depending on either one of them, Hogan, O'Malley. In fact, the Red Line got started in 2002 in Ehrlich's administration, from 2002 to 2015 when Hogan canceled it. That's 13 years of hard labor, not just by elected officials and top down. Hundreds of Baltimore community members labored along with me. I put 9 years of my life in it to make sure the Red Line was fully funded, fully approved, and got $900 million grant from the federal government. This is not based on Larry Hogan or Walter O'Malley or Ehrlich. It's what we need. It was planned in order to do at least two major things. Transit equity, improved transit equity. Right now, Baltimore still has two separate transportation systems, one for Black people, one for white people. The other was the massive economic development that accompanies light rail only. No other rail. In fact, the mantra in the industry is this: development follows rail, buses follow development, and we've added another one. The money follows commitment. And when we get the commitment shown by the leadership in this town and in this region, we can get the money that Senators Van Hollen, and Cardin have put in the infrastructure bill that would direct money to Maryland to complete the Red Line if we got our act together. That's the issue. Will we get our act together? Not will Hogan get his act together or O'Malley or anybody else. When will we get our act together?
So now what?
So now let's get our act together and do what makes the most sense. Complete the Red Line. Stop trembling. There's nothing else. Nobody else has any kind of project that will bring 10,000 jobs to Baltimore. That enough is enough to start and make sure you keep it. Dramatically reduce commute times. Two out of three jobs in this entire region take 90 minutes or more to get to by public transportation. Then $3 to $6.5 billion in what's called transit-oriented development that accompanies light rail, not buses, light rail. In fact, the way we put it is, banks don't invest in bus stops. But what do you get from M.MTA and any of the others? You get this slogan always. When there's an issue, they just throw a bus at it and say, don't spend a penny more. That's old time stuff. And it's not working, and it hasn't worked for 7 years under the Hogan administration. You know, I don't care who it is. It's what they keep doing, because he came to office to prove to us that he was just as much a segregationist as George Wallace. And that's what he did. Cancel the Red Line and approve the Purple Line. Why? In Montgomery County, the people who wanted the Purple Line is wealthiest white base in the state. He canceled the Red Line, gave $900 million back to the federal government, and took $1.35 billion and sprinkled around the state in 13 transportation projects where his real white base lives in order to guarantee his reelection. So let's get rid of this stuff about who's to blame. The most important thing.
Okay, you made that point. You made that point. Now, what do you want people to do?
We want people to do a couple things. One, support and join BTEC Nation. Two, sign our petition to put this question on the ballot in November. Should we compel the city of Baltimore to take the first steps to creating a Baltimore Regional Transportation Authority, because that's the most viable path to reviving the Red Line? We got to do that, because whenever you find structural racism, you got to make structural change. Get rid of the M.MTA model that governs us. That's what we want people to do.
So have you talked to any of these gubernatorial candidates on their position?
Every one of them.
Does any one of them support you?
Well, okay, here's the breakdown. You asked this question. Here's a breakdown. Tom Perez, go. Let's build a Red Line. Okay. King, let's build a Red Line. Westmore, let's build a red line. Rusher and Baker, let's build a red line. When we get to Peter Francho, he says, well, maybe I like a monorail. Peter, what are you talking about? Start all over from scratch on a monorail? Does Baltimore is there enough money in this state to build the support structures across 15 miles from Bayview out to Woodlawn CMS? There's not that much money in the state. That's why it's underground for 3.4 miles in Baltimore. Okay. Then we get to Gansler.
I want to stop you right there.
Okay, I'm telling you. I've talked to you. Asked me had I talked to him. I've talked to him.
Well, I got a quick question. We're going to build a 4-mile track underground?
3.4 miles.
3.4 miles underground.
And then it services just after crossing MLK.
So I got a question for you, Mr. Jordan. Have you ever been a part of building underground tracks before?
You know, I'm going to tell you something, Donnie. The DC Metro would not have gotten started without a group called the Emergency Committee on the Transportation Crisis. Black and white people who insisted that money that was in the highway program that made a highway to nowhere would not be spent on a highway across DC, breaking up black households. Instead, it would be put into mass transit. That's how the Washington, D.C. Metro got built. Yes, we built tunnels.
So you were a part of underground digging, like these 3 miles we're talking about.
What do you really think, Donnie? You think I was digging underground to like do a tunnel? What is your real question?
Do you understand the people who will get displaced in building 3 miles underground?
It's not, Donnie. Let me make sure.
You're responding as if that is a stupid question.
I'm not responding to a stupid question. I'm gonna make sure that it's in context. You know, a question out of context is not the same as a question in context. The red line was planned so that it doesn't destroy any buildings, doesn't break up any foundations.
For 3 miles.
3.4 miles. And when it surfaces, it's under the middle of the street, Edmondson Avenue, right where the streetcars used to be. Okay, no houses are disturbed, no foundations are disturbed, and it goes all the way out to CMS Woodlawn after another tunnel at Cooks Lane. Nothing is, in fact, the law does not permit the red line to destroy and take people's homes. So there's no eminent domain, no destroying your homes, and for the most of it, it's at least 40 feet underground. And it will employ.
Have you ever lived above a train?
Above a train. I've lived near a train. I lived near a street that had a train on it. I was living in Washington, D.C. when all of U Street had to be basically shut down while the subway was being built. So if you ask me,
where I live at here in Santan, where you came yesterday, we have the Amtrak underneath. Just asking, because you know when you build a train, it affects everything around it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but see, if you plan it right. Yeah, but see, the Amtrak wasn't planned the way the red line was planned.
Let me finish my point. Too many businesses get disrupted in the process. And as a Baltimorean, I've seen this repeatedly, whether it was West Side redevelopment, whether it was State Center. I've seen businesses, small businesses, black and white, get disrupted, never to come back. I'm concerned about that part.
I'm concerned about it too. Wait, done it.
It's a long time. And then we never even acknowledge the initial incompetence of mass transportation in Baltimore. You guys are trying to fix a dumb subway system. It has to be the dumbest subway system in the entire world.
And absolutely, Donnie, you got to understand something else. The two people you're talking to have been just as concerned about the impact on communities, small businesses, as anybody else in the world. Let me tell you what we've done about it. One is we've made sure that the project that we are part of is not destroying anybody's house, not yours or anybody else. When you come down Edmondson Avenue and take a close look at it, you'll see a median strip where the streetcars used to be. Did that destroy anybody's house?
That's above ground.
I asked you another question. I know it's above ground.
It's above ground.
Well, That's not the question I asked you. I asked
If
you to
it's above
destroy everybody's
ground,
house.
I think it's a lot easier. But if you're talking about underground, and time out, you're talking about Baltimore. Every 5 minutes, there's a gas leak or water leak in downtown Baltimore. So, in terms of infrastructure, are you an engineer, Sam?
Donnie,
Are
let me
you
ask
an
you something.
engineer?
Let me just ask you something. Let me ask you something.
Are you an engineer?
I'm going to ask you a question because that's not a
So
question.
You're not an engineer.
Donnie,
So
it doesn't matter if I'm an engineer or not. Let me talk about something you just said.
Structures.
Here's
We have the Amtrak
Here's
that
what it
comes
is.
under our.
You see, Donnie, you got to have some kind of conversation or not. If you want to preach to me about how stupid it is, I'll listen. If you want to listen to me and talk about why it is not the stupidest thing in the world, you must please listen. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to tell you why.
A conversation is talking and listening.
Why. You're not listening.
And
I'm going to tell you why. You're not listening. You're not. Well, I'll ask you this question this way. Do you think that all those businesses in downtown Baltimore are going to let a subway come under 3.4 miles of the damn center city? This is 49% of the state's economy, and destroy all those buildings?
No one's going to allow that.
Wait. Well, of course they're not going to allow it. That's my point. If they're not going to allow it on the richest property in the state, you think that it's going to be endangering households on Emerson Avenue?
I'm telling you that the train comes underneath of my house, and after years, they finally sent out letters to the effect.
I think you're not describing the red line. That's the point. We're not talking about.
I'm describing the Amtrak. I'm very competent on what I'm talking about.
Amtrak. You're not talking about the red line, and the Amtrak and the red line were not planned by the same people, and we're not playing with the same.
I never said they were. I'm talking about a train underneath your house.
What you intend to do?
I'm talking about a train, Sam, underneath a tunnel that when it goes by the rumblings, you hear that in your house. I don't see what's so difficult.
You're not answering my question. We're arguing about two different things.
I'm not arguing.
Of course you are.
I simply asked you, have you ever lived with a train underneath?
And I have told you.
It could be Chicago. It could be D.C. It could be Baltimore. It's really a yes
or no question. Donnie, let me answer your question. Yes, I have. I lived a block.
Then you know that it's not always pleasant.
I'm going to tell you something. You got your mind way up. When we got on this call, you kept telling Glenn that he's obsessed with Hogan. Okay, well, I'm telling you, you're obsessed with proving that this is stupid and you don't have any proof.
No, I'm trying to find out your qualifications when it comes to planning.
Are you an engineer?
Actually, I studied engineering. Absolutely.
I asked you, are you an engineer?
I'm not an engineer, but I know enough about stresses.
Then you're not an engineer.
And physics.
Then you're not an engineer.
Are you?
And let me interject here.
You're not an engineer.
We have engineering plans that we can send you, Donnie, that you can look at since you studied engineering.
I would just call them engineers that I know.
The red line don't go under any houses. It goes down
the street. Glenn, didn't Malcolm say if you don't want a black man to know something, put it in a book? That's exactly where the engineering plans are. That's why Donnie doesn't know anything about it. He said, if you don't want a black man to know something, put it in a book.
Well, he's very red. Now I got to give that.
I didn't say he wasn't.
Look, Donnie, we're going to send you.
Book. He didn't read this book. Glenn, don't defend anybody who's going to assault your intelligence.
Oh, he's not insulting my intelligence.
Well, then what do you think
you can't insult my intelligence.
I'm not.
Listen. We're going to send you the architectural renderings to show you how valuable this project is.
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell them what we do, Glenn.
Okay, look, I understand.
Okay, I'm going to give an example. Look, Donnie wants controversy. That's what sells radio. Here's what we're doing.
I don't want controversy. Don't speak for me. Don't put words in my mouth.
Well, then why are you asking me if I'm an engineer? Why are you asking me if I'm an engineer if you don't want controversy?
Now you're going to stop cutting me off now. I'm going to let you slide.
Wait. Are we going to have a conversation?
You're on my show. I'm trying to be polite, Sam.
I was trying to be polite, and you kept telling me that I was.
No, you wouldn't answer the question, Sam. I asked you a yes or no question,
and I asked you a yes or no question.
A long answer.
No,
now I'm critical enough of a thinker to know when you're not answering my question.
No.
You give respect,
I'm
Sam.
not letting it go. I'm
You
not
give
letting it go,
respect.
Glenn. No, I'm not taking it.
You
I'm
give
not taking
respect,
it.
and
You know,
you will
I'm
get
not
love
taking
it.
respect.
You gotta talk to me like you want respect. You gotta give some.
No, you
Okay,
have to
okay.
answer the question
No,
or
Glenn,
not come
don't
on the
interrupt,
show.
please. Donnie, if you want to be respected, you gotta show some.
You have to answer the question. It was
Wait,
yes
that's the first
or
thing you
no.
respect. Don't talk about I've got to do this and I've got to do that. You want a conversation? You speak, and then let me speak.
It hasn't gone like that. Glenn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, you need your coffee. You haven't had your coffee yet. Like you said when you came on. You might need a
Pat your
Snickers.
dog on the head.
But look,
Pat your dog on the head.
look, Donnie.
Pharaoh,
we're
where's
not
Pharaoh?
ducking- Look, we're not
Pharaoh.
ducking any questions. We're not ducking any questions. Everything, you know, I love Baltimore City. I love the people of Baltimore City, but there's a thing called the common good. What's good for the city? What's good for all the people? You
I
know,
got you.
we have
But Glenn,
people that
you've
are
been
dying,
talking
they don't
about
have
this.
jobs. We have to
I
bring
got
this
you.
city back and bring it alive.
Pat your
I
dog on
got
the
you,
head.
Glenn, but you've been working on this for years, Glenn.
That's what it takes. The red line was planned for 12 years when it was canceled. You know, for the past 7 years, you know, we had a Title VI complaint that was totally wiped out without any discussion. You know, we can't keep letting people do things and get away with it. Baltimore has to stand up and demand what is good for Baltimore.
And it's
I
not
don't
going
care
to be.
who's
It's not
in
going to be
office,
finished.
who got elected. We, the people of Baltimore, have to come together and make this happen for us, for our children. This is a generational project. No city is anchored by a bus system and thrive and become the city. We want Baltimore to be the city, that the world-class city it can become. And the only way to do that is start a transit system that people want to use and live near. That's why we have vacant houses. People can't get to work from West Baltimore in a reasonable amount of time. Let's get this done. Let's come together and say, hey,
Glenn, let me tell you what people don't have a problem getting to on time.
Where?
The club.
That's neither here nor there. We talking about people trying to get to the doctor.
I'm saying people getting
People
where they
trying to
want to
get to
get.
the market, but most of them drive to the club or walk to the club. If they want to get to the club, they'll get there. But I don't have nothing to do with that. We're trying to get people to jobs, to their doctor's appointments, to the market, so they can get healthy food. That's what we're focused on, Donnie. We ain't trying to get nobody to the club. They gonna get there. But we talking about getting people to get somewhere where they can raise their families, to get a job that they don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs and still don't live paycheck to paycheck. This
Y'all doing a lot of mixing and stuff. So here's a question. Are you saying we have vacant houses because we don't have transit?
Transit, climate, housing is all interconnected. People want to live near.
Well, why don't we just run Sam for governor?
Well, that we got to get the red line bill first, and then we're gonna run Sam for governor.
But you've been trying this, and it's been years. What kind of traction are you getting?
Well, we got the infrastructure bill has the red line specifically in the infrastructure bill. That's half the problem. You know, the money is going to be allocated for the red line. The mayor and the city of Baltimore have to say, yes, we want it. Yes, you know, we're gonna be behind it, and we're gonna commit to it. It needs commitment. That's where funding comes from, commitment. I'm telling you, man, all this misinformation about Tyler gonna break your house down and all this, that's misinformation to keep from getting what we really need.
Let me mention something else. You know how Donald Trump keeps saying the 2020 elections were stolen, and there's no proof after 60 appeals to the Supreme Court? Larry Hogan also has a big lie. Donnie, he says that the red line was a wasteful boondoggle. we filed a Title VI complaint against Larry Hogan. In fact, we formed BTEC within hours of Hogan's cancellation in 2015. That was his best chance to, in the Title VI investigation, to show all his proof and evidence about why he canceled the red line. And I'll tell you this, there is no report, there's no analysis, there's no study whatsoever. He didn't do one then, and none has been done now that substantiates that claim. Why would he say that? It's his big lie too. There's no such proof that the red line was too expensive. But he's gotten everybody believing it. And when he shut it down, guess what else happened? All those folks who had been working with us, advocating for the red line for 13 years, from 2002 to 2015, they all went quiet, except BTEC, except the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition, because we knew this. If we don't build it, it won't get built. As simple as that. That's logical. And if nobody advocates to complete it, it won't get done. Let me just give you this before we get off. Our mission is very simple. The mission of the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition is to build and lead an informed, resolute, regional constituency that will demand and pursue the completion of the Red Line Light Rail project, because we envision Baltimore among the leading cities of this nation when it offers an equitable, reliable, multimodal transportation network anchored by light rail. And that's exactly what we intend to do.
How can people get in touch with you?
Glenn, you have our information to us. The best is our Facebook, Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition. We're on Facebook. We have a website at moretransit-equity.com.
What's your phone number?
That is always a puzzle for me.
No, give them my phone number. My phone number is 443-765-2638. My email address, gismith23@yahoo.com. Contact me. Go to btech@moretransitequity.com. But call me directly, 443-765-2638.
Okay, you want to say that number nice and slow for me one time.
443-765-2638. I'll answer as soon as you call. I'm going to answer.
So I got to work with you guys on your presentation, because it's like good cop, bad cop. I think you start with Glenn, you bring in Sam for a minute, then shut him down because you know he's going to go off, and then you pass the ball back to Glenn. That's that.
We got some alpha male stuff going on here. I love you, Donnie. Look, Donnie, I'm not blowing smoke when I say I love what you're doing. You know, this platform is very much needed. We have to tell our own stories and our own truths.
Well, that's why we want you to get your own show. That way Sam can fuss out somebody else instead of the general manager.
Well, that's in the works, right? You yesterday you said we have Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on blacknewsusa.com. I love it. I love it.
Close enough.
I love it when a plan comes together. We're together.
Okay.
We're gonna sit down and have coffee first the next time.
You know why Glenn's my brother. You know exactly why Glenn's my brother. Wouldn't be without him.
Okay.
Wouldn't be working on this project without him.
I'm going to head on up to the project up there in West North Avenue. Thank you for joining us. Glenn, put that number out one more time and any contact information for you and Sam.
Okay, my telephone number, 443-765-2638. My email address, gismith23@yahoo.com. Our website, btech@moretransitequity.com. Come join us. Let's get this done, man. Baltimore is dying. We need to bring people back to Baltimore. Thank you.
Good deal. And Sam Pharaoh looks forward to seeing you the very next time.
I'm a dog whisperer. I'm a dog whisperer.
Is that a threat? Is that a threat?
No. Pharaoh behaved. Pharaoh behaved because he could tell who I am. I'm a dog whisperer. I have no fear of any dog whatsoever. Pharaoh knew that.
Joining us here on Black
He
USA.
picked it up, Donnie.
News. Stay tuned.
He picked my vibe up.
What a way to start a day. What a way to start a day. I love it.
Who needs coffee?
Go pat Pharaoh on the head.